Hey, everybody, here we are. We are back. It's another great episode of Let's Talk Phys Ed. As always, I'm your host, Jason Steele. With me tonight, again, Tanner Roast. Tanner, how's it going tonight?
Oh, things are good. I kind of missed the intro music. Why didn't we play any intro music tonight?
Yeah, for all of our viewers, we're kind of, with the YouTube where we put it onto YouTube, we're getting a few slaps on the hand with some of the music that we're using and being copyrighted. So we figured, you know what? I don't want to end up in jail, neither does Tanner. So we're going to go without some music and see how the format works. But I don't think our guests will mind tonight. So
I think they'll be okay.
yeah. All right. This is the give and take, Tanner. I say something, you say something, then we go. Okay. I think we're thrown
I
off.
thought you were introduce our guests.
Yes, I think I'm going to. The show,
right. Let's do that.
Two shows colliding tonight. We've got Let's Talk Phys Ed meets Open Forum Podcast. We've got Mike Miller and Mike Martinez with us tonight. Gentlemen, how are you?
I'm great.
All right. Show's going great so far.
I'm hydrated.
I'm doing fantastic, guys. It's a blast to be with you here again.
Yes, and Martinez has been on the show. This is his third time on the show. Dapper as always. Mike Miller in the house, looking official. Like, you can't really tell who the host of the show is. Mike Miller shows up with all these fancy microphones.
Live from the Open Forum Podcast Command Center.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. I wish
that sounds way better than anything we've done.
It does. It does.
Oh, wait, hang on. I can just do this.
Oh my. Oh my.
That's nice.
That is nice. I was blown away in Tampa when we show up and Mike Miller walks out and says, "Here, when you guys are on, you can use these."
Lay one of these bad boys on you.
On the microphone. All four people from my hometown that were watching just loved them. They loved them. So
I can't believe you didn't steal one.
Yeah. I
have an extra one.
The big sign that was in there, I couldn't fit it in my carry-on the plane, so I had to let someone else take it. But so we're excited to have you guys on the show. Worlds collide, two talk shows, boom, boom. Excited to see, what our writers came up with, what questions they came up with tonight. And hopefully you guys are on your toes for some of these. Are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
I don't know how much of my toes I'll be on. It's approximately 3:15 in the morning here on the East Coast. But I will do my best for you two.
And I sprained my ankle last week, so
yeah.
I'll be on my left toes.
All right.
Where's it 11:15, Mike?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
No, it's 10:18.
Way past.
Okay.
He's time zone challenged.
It is a school night though, so
for some of us, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Boo.
All right. Well, we're gonna jump into some questions here. You guys ready?
Always.
Fantastic.
Let's do it.
You know what? On my screen, I've got Mike Miller up top, Mike Martinez down below. So for sake of answering in order, Miller, you're going to be first. Martinez, you're second. How's that sound?
Keep things simple for us.
Wait, so I'm taller than Martinez right now?
You are going first.
Jackpot. Okay.
Ready? Okay. Wednesday was National Girls and Women in Sport Day. What do you think of? What do you do special in class? Do you do anything? When they talk national women and girls in sports, what comes to mind? What do you think of?
When I show clips of different sports, so right now I just finished up a team handball unit, I always make sure that I show clips, especially Olympic sports, from men's and women's sports, just so they kind of see that on a world scale. But other than that, I really don't do anything intentionally. I just kind of let it go. But when I teach health, I'm really intentional about, like when I talk about when kids go to the doctor, really intentional about the pronouns that I use when I bring those roles up, as to not, exclude at all.
Absolutely. Good.
And I'm right around the same ballpark there. I try to tie two kind of thoughts together. Whenever I have either demonstration videos, or I like to use a lot of videos as like a hook to kind of, rope kids in. I try to not only have an equal balance of male and female representation, but also try to tie in some collegiate examples there. 'Cause I want my kids thinking, what's beyond high school, and not just see the LeBron James, the Steph Currys, but see someone who might kind of look like them doing it as a student and an athlete at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know this is a big thing for Tanner. Tanner, you had some special guests at one point too when during National Girls and Women's in Sport Week.
Well, I had written a blog about it maybe 2 years ago for Justin Slider's blog, Slow Chat PE, and I interviewed an author, and the author was able to come in April to my school, Shelley Boynton Breen. She does the Shelley Being the Sports Queen books, which feature a young female lead who is in sports, which is very, very small percentage of books talk about females as the lead character in sports. There's more animal books, there's more boy books, but very few female, especially related to sports. So it was kind of cool to have her come in. But additionally for me, I have pictures of females and their accomplishments in athletics all around my gym, a little, half sheets of paper, printed and laminated. I probably have 20 or so of them on the wall. And I intentionally try not to put pictures of men on the wall, just because they're seen on TV, Sports Center is like 98% of the time they're showing men's sports. So for me, I want to show all those opportunities for girls to see, hey, there's cool people doing cool stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So I was going to ask you guys about how Open started. I know we've talked, not Open, how about the Open Forum podcast, we'll say, started. We talked about how Let's Talk Phys Ed started last episode, but let's hear how your show got started.
The Open Forum podcast was kind of a brainchild of something that I wanted to do. When I was thinking about podcasting anyway, just to try it out because I was interested in it. And Open had came to the school that Mike and I was working at, and Nick Klein and Brendan Herwick had led a full day PD with us. And we got to talking, and I kind of just pitched it to Nick on a whim, and it ended up manifesting into actually us recording for, we did like a pilot episode. We sent it out to Aaron, and he enjoyed it, and that was kind of the birth of that.
And that's all she wrote, huh?
Yeah.
Well, not 100%.
There's always a hidden thing, and I love it.
What did I forget?
The facts in the story are 100% accurate, but what Mike is leaving out is he brought this idea to me at the New York State AFRD conference.
I did.
Probably 2+ years before it actually went forward. I had just kind of, I had known Brandon for a while, but I had just met Nick recently. And separately, Miller asked, what do you think about this idea? Do you think that Open would want to be involved with this? And because I get excited and run with things like that, I'm like, oh, absolutely. There's no way this can miss, blah, 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 blah. So we brought
and I was like, let's do it.
We brought it to Nick's attention, and he's like, okay, well, who would you talk to? What would it be about? And we had literally no answers whatsoever. But
sounds familiar.
He said, you know what, let me talk to Aaron. We'll see what he thinks. Aaron's response was, put something together and we'll see. So we put together the what still today is probably the crown jewel of Phys Ed podcast episodes. And when I say that, it was probably absolute trash. But Aaron, in all his optimistic wisdom, was like, you know what, I see something here. Let's so we talked format, we talked length, we talked all sorts of things to make it sound better than it really was. And I think 2 years after the initial conversation was when we actually published our first episode.
That's like really similar to how ours was, except ours was, hey, Tanner, I want to do this. Ask your wife if it's okay. Okay, I will. And then he texted me later, like 2 days later, and said, yeah, let's do it. And then 2 weeks later, we did our first episode and had no clue what we were doing. So
Your time frame's off a little bit.
Wow, it's pretty.
It was 4 days from the time you said, "Hey, let's do this show," to the time we recorded. It was 4 days.
4 days, 2
Well,
weeks.
Your executive director
Yeah.
has a quicker turnaround time than ours did. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Executive director.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny.
That's the advantage of using YouTube is your platform, right? It's
we get-
you know,
Yeah, we do what we want around
that's
here.
it. Except play music.
Except
Yeah, we can't do that.
full disclosure, we did have at one point we had a theme song made up for us, which we paid money for, and it wasn't very good, so we didn't use it. But,
I wonder if I still have that.
yeah.
Our
I
theme
should look for
song
that.
is creative. It's, I guess the equivalent of open source, but it's common license and you just have to give them a credit and you can use it.
Perfect. Well, somebody will have
We had
for us.
But you have to
we
find
had a
one you like.
teacher, and her husband had a band, and they were some band that was back from like, I don't know, the 80s or so, and whatever the name was like a pun of, well, something I probably can't talk about online, but anyway, I won't go there. They had some inappropriate name, but they wrote us a little jingle. And they had like 5 guys get together and they get the guitar and whatever else they had, the whistle. I don't know.
They had a jam session for probably about 3 hours for these two nobodies. They had no clue what they were making this for probably, and they just ran with it and recorded it, and Tanner shared it to me and I was super excited, and then I listened to it.
We're like, nope.
I don't think we should use that. It didn't even talk about Flyed, or
No, it didn't.
us or our show or anything. It was just like,
I kind of want to hear it.
yeah. Well,
If I find it, I'll put it online.
he needs to find it and put it on there.
All right, let's move on.
With open forum podcast a little bit, we want to know best interview. Don't worry about hurting feelings because nobody really watches our show anyways. But who best interview you've had, hands down?
That's tough.
I'm so glad Mike's going first.
That is tough.
That's what we're about on this show. Making you think on your feet.
Mike, you go first.
I don't want to break the format that the producers have laid out, so
I mean, anytime we get to talk to Jim DeLine,
Well, I mean,
I'm just totally enamored.
yeah.
That's my answer.
I think that was one of our first ones too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Take Your Parents to PE
Take your parents to PE week.
from way back when.
Yeah.
I think that whenever we have multiple people on at the same time, similar to what we're doing tonight, has produced some of our best moments. And two that jump out was our Shape America podcast and Global Voxcast mashup.
Yeah.
We had Matt Pomeroy, we had Stephanie, we had Jorge, all leading up to Shape Nashville, I believe it was 2 years ago. But one of the funniest ones that unfortunately we have nothing to show for it was having the dancers on. We had Ben Perillo, we had Chris Walker, Scott Williams, Brendan Herwick. We had to wait like 40 minutes for Ben to stop mowing his lawn
Oh my goodness.
to sign on. And then every time someone would sign on, someone would sign off. So someone was eating what sounded like cereal the whole time and clinking a spoon. We couldn't figure out who it was.
I
But we
don't
had
know.
like at least an hour and a half of gold before we ever hit record.
It was great.
That's
I think
what
I have the
stands out to me
outtakes for that somewhere.
That's a good one. And going back to when you mentioned Jim DeLine about that, I mean, he's
Sorry.
got a funny way of being incredibly inspirational and then triggering these things that spark something else and then giving you full credit for it, right? Like he probably said something amazing on your podcast and then said, well, actually that was just inspired by you guys. It was all you too, when you did nothing, right? So yeah, it's incredible how he can do that.
When you have as much brilliance as he does, you can give a portion of it away
Yeah.
and still have plenty for yourself anyway. So it's just kind of the kind of guy he is.
Speaking
the
of that
difference.
brilliance, trying to bring that brilliance into North Dakota as a keynote speaker. So if you're watching, Jim, you heard it here first. February 12th, Bismarck, North Dakota, bring a sweater.
It's like
He's
knowledge
been
and
to
wisdom.
Iowa.
Knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
There you go.
Is that
Nice.
February 12th, as in like 3 days from now?
No.
Next year.
Next.
Yeah.
The next one.
I'm like, I don't think he's gonna make it by Thursday.
I think there's another one coming. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Tanner, what do you got for us?
So hey, I do my first open training on Friday. It's pretty exciting, right? I know I've done one in Kentucky with some other people, but it's my first solo training. What is the advice? You guys have all done them, many more than I have, obviously. But what's your advice for me?
Miller.
Feel free to,
Oh, I'm up.
to talk.
Feel free.
Anybody.
Yeah.
No, we're interviewing you guys this time.
I found it really helpful to keep the pace up. I mean, that's how my brain works anyway. So having obviously your session well planned, knowing what things you can go with, what things you can kind of cut out if you need time. But the last one I did was I focused on a lot of tactical concepts. So I was doing a bunch of progressions, but I just kept hitting them with all kinds of things. And I also had a really good group, but just keep the pace up.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that.
And probably the top 3 things that I would suggest is, one, to reach out to whoever it is at that district who coordinated the PD and kind of get a read of what you're walking into. If you're going to have 20 elementary school teachers and 2 high school teachers, probably want to focus more on elementary stuff and show how you can modify for the older students and vice versa. 2, along the same lines as Mike was saying, I would say read the room. Sometimes you might have a really similar to teaching a lesson. You might have an awesome agenda planned out and realize that the energy is kind of waning on a certain activity, but you have 3 more minutes planned. Feel free to scrap that 3 minutes and always have extra planned to move on to something else. And don't be afraid if things do go on schedule and you don't get to everything. Just know that you had at least that much planned. And I would say make sure you have some actionable items in there, things that a teacher can take on Thursday or Friday and immediately implement on Monday. Because we've all been to conferences before. We get so much information that it's hard to kind of pinpoint the one thing that you can use. If I know this game, this vocab card, this assessment, I know I can immediately use this on Monday. Everyone's going to leave feeling like they really got something beneficial in that session.
Yeah. And if it's
Great
anything like
advice.
my first open training, I did a full open PD 6-hour training and there was 10 people there. And so if it's not good, only 10 people will know. That was advice that Tanner gave me for mine. So I'm gonna recycle that and give it right back to you.
Well, I'm thinking that I've got like 70 or 80 going to be in the room, so
You'll have a
we'll
blast.
see.
It'll be over before you know it.
If I could add one quick bonus piece
You
to
certainly can.
to
Yes.
Jason's point, at some point you're going to do a training where you have 6 hours of movement, activity, fun for like 10 people or less who are not going to be able to do that. So make sure you have enough content where if we need to take a break and break down the website, break down a module, break down how to access resources, that you can get that fill without people collapsing before lunch, for sure.
Yeah, big time. Okay, so now we're going to jump into kind of like some individual specific questions. So this one's just for Miller here. Where on, we do a lot of traveling, going to different places. And when we do these things, we're constantly taking Uber and what's the other one? Lyft, right? Uber and Lyft and all those. Where would you rank our Uber driver taking us from the hotel in Tampa to Top Golf? And did you find it interesting, like how many times he had actually been shot and shot at and robbed. Ready to go.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. That was the driver that took us back from Topgolf.
Yes.
Back from Topgolf
right.
to the hotel.
Correct. Yeah.
Considering he got us back safely in the hoopty that we were in, I'm gonna give him a solid 3.5 stars.
Safely in one piece.
In one piece.
Now, was he
it's not-
shot and shot at during your Uber ride?
Nope.
No,
Oh.
thankfully.
All stories that were part of our 20-minute ride. It was there were a lot of eyes looking at each other like,
Yes.
is this really happening? Is this true?
Who was in the front seat?
I was.
Okay.
Did not, and I will exaggerate from time to time. This is not an exaggeration. He did not stop at one stop sign.
Nope.
Not one.
Those are suggestions in Florida, aren't they?
Suggestions.
I mean, they had
Yeah,
white
for sure.
borders.
If they have the
so,
white boundary, they're just suggestions.
yeah, totally optional.
So it was.
So he did manage to turn around and show us in the back seat all the holes and
While he was
look
driving.
at this one down here. Like,
At some point, he said, "Hey, you grab the wheel."
Your Uber ride should be an interactive experience, I feel like, though.
It certainly was.
Yeah, but usually the interactive experience you wish for is like disco lights or like, hey, here's a bottle of water.
here's some mints.
You have to work with what you have, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was something else. Oh, that's crazy.
That was great.
No. Now his stories were good, but they're not as good as Martinez. Your stories when you were doing Run and Rant all summer, you always had something inspirational to say to us. When was the last time you went out and did a Run and Rant? Like you've got this, this thing in your head that you just need to share with us, and it's like magical. Like when was the last time you did that?
So I've done a lot of running lately and a lot of ranting. I haven't done them at the same time lately. And what's funny about those, going back to Brandon Herwick again, he kind of turned me on to Run and Rant. And I was like, you know what? I don't need one more thing in my life that I feel like I have to do. And I quickly got sucked into other people sharing motivation and pumping each other up. So it's an easy community to get sucked into for sure. I think the last one that I actually sent in, so I don't remember how this starts. I think Mark Ryan, who runs the Run and Rant community or who organizes the Run and Rant community, asked me one time if I would film one from Times Square. He was thrilled that I was in New York City. So then the fun backdrops became part of my shtick. I did one in Montreal, one in Morocco, one in Portugal, and as we're prone to do. And
no big deal.
Yeah, just how I live my life, I guess.
I'm on the moon. Hey, everybody, it's Mike. I'm on the moon.
That was supposed to be my next one, and my flight was canceled. Something about the coronavirus or something. I'm not sure, but and then I had some Achilles tendonitis going on, which slowed my running a little bit, which made me rant more but run less. So I haven't been able to kind of marry those together. So it's probably been a couple months since I've had a good run and rant session all in one.
Well,
We thoroughly enjoyed your rants.
yeah, certainly looking forward to the next one. See where you come up from. I was gonna say before you actually mentioned it, like I watched some of yours and I really found myself like not even listening to what you were saying. I was watching the background because you're like at all these cool places and I'm like, oh, Mike, move. Like just show what's going on back there.
If you would only know the percentage of my life I spend with people not listening to what I'm saying, you'd be staggered.
No, I think I get it. I get it. Nobody listens to us either.
It's in school, it's at home, it's pretty much everywhere. So thank you for that.
Mike's just green screened those, right?
Yeah. Okay, Miller. Okay, we got to have one really cool firefighter story. Now that we got you on.
I was in the department probably 3 years. we got dispatched to a basement fire. So the first due engine tries to make the front door, and they can't make the interior stairs because they're gone, right? They're burned through. So I was on the second due engine. We stretched to the back door, and we try to make like the rear stairs. And now the basement wasn't really a basement. It was kind of just like half sunk. So, but making basement stairs in a basement fire is probably the most difficult, intense thing you can do, because it's a chimney, right? So all that hot smoke and the superheated gas is coming at you, right? So I'm on my back, got this hose. We're going down into the basement. We get down there, and now it's an illegal apartment. So you're wading through garbage and things that are falling over and appliances and wires. So we're going through there. We're knocking fire down. I was the backup guy, so I was the second on the line. So we're moving up. We're cutting through wires. We're getting hung up on stuff. And then we lose water, which is a very dangerous thing to happen when in a burning building, right?
Big thing you want to go in with, correct?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I assume that's like a tool that you need, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You got to put the wet stuff on the red stuff.
Yeah.
So we're at a point where
that's rule number one, Martinez. I can see you the rule number one at firefighter school.
In my life, it is anyway.
Red stuff on the red stuff.
That's it.
Got it.
So water goes dead, and we're in this basement apartment, and now the fire, we're underneath the interior stairs. So the fire is starting to creep around us. And that's bad. If it gets behind you, you're done. You're toast. Literally. So there was like minimal pressure in the line. So my officer keeps closing the bail of the valve in the nozzle. It's called the bail. So he's closing it and he's letting the hose fill up, and then he's just totally cool. Like I'm freaking out in my head, and he's just totally cool, just opening it up and splashing the water on the walls around us, right? Just super casual.
Pouring it from the sink.
Yeah. So we do that just to keep the fire at bay for about probably the longest minute and a half of my life. And then our pressure comes back and we knock down the rest of the fire in the basement. But that and what we did during Hurricane Sandy is probably the two most dangerous days I've had in my life, but that's a pretty good one.
That is incredible. That is unreal. It takes a special person.
Thanks for doing that, man.
Yeah, man. It's always been a family thing. My dad, my grandfather, my uncles. So
that's awesome. We just go fishing. Like we're not, you want to go put out fires? No, let's go fishing.
Which you also need water for.
Yeah, you just put
also need
the
water.
wet stuff and the red stuff together.
Yeah.
All right, Martinez, this is a question specifically for you. I was trimming my beard up, and I was looking in the, you gotta look in a mirror and make sure everything's all right. And you have that double mirror situation. I noticed my bald spot's getting bigger. When did it happen for you? When did you decide that you had to lose it all? Like, I think that, I'm going to turn 40 in about 14 months. So as I was telling Jason, I think my hair is on a farewell tour. So how do I know when it's time?
So if I can impart any wisdom on anybody in this world, I would say keep it as long as, especially with, a nice little situation you got going on over there. But I can't see that from here. Mine was a very unfortunate situation. I had a some would say delicious head of hair. I was probably in my mid-20s, 25-ish. And I went home from work one day. And the weirdest thing, I had a huge mosquito bite right in the top of my head. And it was the middle of July. It was steamy outside. I had a 15-year-old window air conditioner unit that wasn't doing anything in my room. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to shave my head. I'm going to do it. I need direct access to scratch this thing. So I took the buzzers, took a little clip off, did a job on it, And like 3 days later, I noticed the sides were racing back in and the top was just taking its sweet time. And I said, huh, I guess this is a lifestyle choice now. And I went out that day, bought a can of Barbasol and a really nice Gillette Mach 3 and just never looked back.
That was all she
Oh,
wrote.
now
If
you
I
got the
had
Mach
to do it over
12s.
again, it's been some time.
Do
Yeah.
you still use the Mach 3?
Of course, it's never let me down.
It's your preferred blade of choice?
3 blades, clean cut.
Ever had a straight edge from a barber or anything?
I almost did that before my wedding. And then I've seen too many movies where like the barber goes crazy.
Yeah.
So but I do want the hot towel service. It's just one day, it looks luxurious.
You got to get a guy you can trust.
I know. I don't have a lot of those around here.
Speaking of, one of our last questions is we wanted to know, we're in very like Midwest areas, right? Tanner and I, we're very rural, and a big city here is lots different than what you're used to. So, what is it like teaching in New York City?
Diverse. And it all depends on what region of the city you're in. So I've taught in Manhattan, I've taught in Upper Manhattan, now I'm teaching down in Brooklyn, and it's not the same.
I mean,
All three locations are totally different.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to set the stage for you. This is my typical morning. I wake up, we get the kids ready, start the truck, put the dogs out, let the dogs in, jump in the truck, and 2 minutes later, I'm walking into the front door of my school. So is that crazy talk to you? Like, that's non-existent, correct? I mean,
it exists, just not here.
Just not here.
Much like
You've heard of it before.
Much like the famed unicorn, I do believe it exists. I've just never seen it in person. To give you an idea, my wife, who's also a teacher, teaches 4 miles away from our apartment, and it takes her about an hour and 10 minutes to get there every morning. Hour and 10 in, hour and 10
running?
I've asked her about rollerblades, a really nice bike maybe. But yeah, an hour and 10 minutes to go 4 miles. Probably 4.5. I'm probably exaggerating, but
my school is 1.2 miles from my house. It takes me 2 minutes. And the only reason is because there's a railroad track and I have to go all the way down one street over and then back.
That's terrible.
Otherwise, it'd probably take me about 45 seconds. Right?
Oh man.
If you listen carefully, you can hear my heart breaking for you.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about this before, but
when I worked in Harlem,
tried to buy
I would take the Long Island Railroad to Woodside, take the 7 train, then to the N train, then to the 4-5 uptown. It would take me about an hour and 45 minutes. And then I would do the whole thing in reverse. And the cool thing about that is if one train was delayed, I didn't make my Long Island Railroad train. And then I had to then hang out in Jamaica for an hour for the next one.
Not the island of Jamaica.
No. In fact, it's the opposite of the island of Jamaica.
Quite the opposite.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, to Miller's point though, I do think we have probably more similarities than you would think in terms of actual teaching.
Right.
To me, kids are kids.
Yeah.
Especially the younger ones. I mean, if your curriculum is engaging and you're excited to see them, they're going to be excited to see you. I think a lot of the differences might come on the back end. Kids who we don't really have busing to school. A lot of kids, even my 3rd, 4th, 5th graders, take the public transportation, train or bus to school, or are walking back and forth by themselves. Parental involvement might be a little bit different. But inside the school, I feel like it's, at least in my heart of hearts, I believe that kids are kids.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that it's the same.
I would believe
that.
that. 100%. I would believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. All right, Jason. Is that our time for today, or we got more
that
time?
pretty much wraps it up. That was awesome. We appreciate you guys making it and staying up a little bit later than you normally would. Maybe I know we're kind of cutting into some Parks and Rec time, right? I finally got Tanner hooked on the show. And I believe you two, we've been in discussion about you need to get on there so that those inside jokes, when we're telling them when we're in Salt Lake City, we'll have some more inside jokes. But
Yes.
Thank you everybody again for joining us tonight. Thank you, Mike and Mike. Appreciate you coming on and being on the show, and hopefully you can make it for the next reunion show. And we will see you in Salt Lake City.
Yes, have a great night.
Insert music here.
Insert non-existent music here. We're just going to wave and say bye.
Hey, thanks for making us laugh again tonight. Thanks for all you do for us, for Phys Ed, for everyone. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right. Thank you, everybody.